So we didn't die.
Again.
Yes.
Which is good. Another day alive.
I mean, you already knew that if you watched our last video.
In the last video, we talked about the murder house, which is where we stayed in the Mario room, which actually turned out to be the awesome house.
Yes.
Great couple. Lake Powell Manor?
Yes.
Yeah, so awesome place. If you're ever in the area, great place to stay. Address is a little confusing. Make sure you confirm the address. It's actually like 50 miles outside of the town that it's addressed to. It's strange, but once you get it figured out, not that bad. Yeah. Just make sure you do take note of that.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. Great place to stay. Day 3.
Day 3.
Day 3. We made it.
We only drove 130 miles today, so we drove a lot less today.
A lot less. But I feel like we did just as much.
Yes.
We definitely filled the day.
Yes.
So we got up nice and early. Well, actually, the night before, speaking of what time anything is, the night before, we had routed ourselves to it. It said 2.5 hours. Then it said 4.5 hours when we finally got on the road and started heading that direction.
Right.
Totally thrown off. Very confusing. Anyway, we get there. We're looking at our phones. John says it's 12:30, or because he's weird and uses military time, it says 00:30.
00:30.
Because you're weird and no one does that. Don't use it. It's confusing.
It's not weird.
It's just whatever. My phone says that it's 11:30. And so we're looking at our phones trying to figure out why there's a difference. We know Arizona's weird.
Yes.
But why is Arizona weird, John?
Arizona's weird. Oh, and then to make things worse is the clock on the wall agreed with your phone.
Oh, this is the one that I still can't explain.
I can't explain this either.
I can't explain this one. Our phones, it's technology, things are weird.
Yes.
We'll go into that. What I can't explain is the clock, and we'll get to that. But why is Arizona weird?
Arizona's weird. Most of Arizona stays on Mountain Standard Time all year long, meaning when the rest of the nation, and I think one other state, switches over to Daylight Savings Time, most of Arizona does not. However, the Navajo Nation does switch over to Daylight Savings Time.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But that makes it even more confusing, because depending on where you are in the state,
depending on county to county.
County to county, it changes.
Yes.
So we're looking at our phones, and John's an hour ahead, I'm an hour behind, and then by the time we went to bed, they had normaled out, and John had come back to my time, right?
Right.
I think it was? Right.
Which agreed with the clock on the wall.
Which agreed with the clock on the wall. The clock agreed with the time my phone had always said.
Yes.
I set the alarm on my phone because his was a little bit weird, just in case, so we knew we were getting up on time to get out. We woke up in the morning, and the clock now disagreed with our phones, and yet our phones were accurate to Arizona time. So the clock that agreed with my phone, when it was properly on the right time the night before, somehow overnight, I swear, ghost, or I don't know if you're messing with me and I still don't know.
Although I should have thought of that.
It was a really good prank.
No, you had to wake me up because I slept through the alarm, so I didn't mess with you.
It's strange. It agreed with me the night before and then didn't agree with me in the morning, and my phone had not changed.
And my phone was agreeing with your phone at the time.
Yeah.
This morning. So, yeah.
Hopefully you're as confused right now as we are, / were. Very confusing. Anyway, Arizona does not do daylight savings time. So remember that if you're ever in Arizona. Unless you're in the Navajo Nation.
We were actually heading back to Utah to hit up Antelope Canyon. Why did you want to hit Antelope Canyon?
Because it's the single most photographed geological location in the United States. It's also internationally known. I mean, if you look up Antelope Canyon, do it now. It's amazing. Look up Antelope Canyon, Utah, and I mean, you'll go, oh yeah, of course. I've seen plenty of pictures from it. I mean, you absolutely have seen pictures of Antelope Canyon. National Geographic runs pictures from it all the time. It's, I think, one of the single most expensive photos ever purchased for National Geographic. I think it was $4.5 million or something like crazy like that.
We're not checking those facts, but
we're not checking those. But
this is what we learned.
We were quoted that by our tour guide.
Yes,
was $4.5 million for the single picture National Geographic purchased of Antelope Canyon. Incredible place. Basically, it's wind and water, mostly water, that form these canyons in very circular and just very fluid shapes. It's incredible. The upper canyon is narrower at the top and comes down in kind of a pyramid shape. I mean, to say it's a pyramid shape is inaccurate because there's no real shape to it. It's crazy. It's a beautiful space. Narrow at the top, wider at the bottom. And the lower canyon is the exact opposite. Wider at the top, lower at the bottom. I've been wanting to go for years. It's been on my bucket list as a photographer, but also just as someone who's interested in nature. Yeah. And so it was on my list. I was super excited to go.
So we got there.
Ah.
The first place we checked into, or we checked with, their tours were booked, and everywhere Galen had read said like, "Oh, you don't have to.
You can just walk up. Don't worry about it. You'll get a tour.
There's always at least a seat or two."
Yeah.
And so we thought, no problem. So the first place, of course, their entire day until like 4:30, 4:45 was booked, and this was about 10 o'clock, 10:20.
Yeah. So the entire day was booked, and I'm thinking at this point. I mean, the guide even comes to us and goes, you might want to go look elsewhere because you're probably not going to get on our tours. So I'm super disappointed, but okay, we'll go look somewhere else.
Yep. So we just drive down the road about a mile, and there's another
close.
one. And I think that entrance was a lot closer.
Ended up actually being closer to the mouth of the canyon.
Yes, and that was great. And they had walk-up tours, but they weren't sure that we weren't there early enough to make the 10 o'clock.
Well, what happened was we weren't going to make the 10 o'clock just because it was like going in 2 minutes, and everyone's piling onto trucks to ride out to the canyon. It's about a 20-minute drive out there. It just wasn't going to happen. So he said, you're not going to make this tour, but, and he turns our attention, and we've seen it kind of throughout the day, but he turns our attention to the sky, and it looks like it's dumping. It looks just this huge storm in the distance, and he said basically we're close to flash flood warnings right now. Quick story about Antelope Canyon, 1996, I think it was. It's 1997. This was before the Navajo
Nation.
Navajo Nation had taken over the tours of Antelope Canyon. It was just public, not public property, but you could just walk up to it. I mean, there was no fencing. You could just go hang out.
You had to buy like a day pass to get into the park.
Gotcha.
But then it was unregulated.
It was unregulated, no tours. And no oversight, really. So you could just walk up. So apparently a tour of 12 people and the tour guide went into this canyon, the lower canyon portion, and had no idea. And there was a flash flood that came through, and it killed all of the tour members. The tour guide made it out alive. I didn't fact check this, so apologies. But depending on which tour guide we talked to,
right.
It was 11 or 12 people that died.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Very serious situation. Obviously, flash floods are no laughing matter.
No.
So we're standing in line, and they say, unfortunately, we're probably going to be closing because there may be a flash flood, and we can't have people in the canyon.
So they say, hang out for a little bit, get back in line in about half an hour. And so we did. We got tickets. Awesome.
Yes. I was so excited. This had been on my list. I mean, years and years. I've been so excited to do this, and as a photographer, I was so excited to finally get a chance to shoot Antelope Canyon.
But they make it very clear that you cannot bring any bags in. And it made sense once we were in the canyon because it's very narrow, very, very close.
You don't want things knocking into the walls, or just generally causing even more congestion in an already tight area. The canyon has two directions of traffic. People go to the end and then come back all the way through. So just in general, you want to reduce as much congestion as possible. No bags, no tripods, pretty much anything that has to hang off of you, no go.
No.
So I wasn't going to bring my camera bag because I couldn't. So I loaded up all my camera gear.
He's very excited. He has his lens. He's got 2 different lenses. He's got his camera. Do you want to?
I don't want to talk about it at all.
So we're literally, we get on little trucks because the entrance to the canyon, the upper canyon, is about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from where we made the reservations. We're all really excited. I'm sitting across from Galen on the open bed truck. We're two of 4 people on the little truck out of about 20 people on the back of the truck with us.
Yeah.
2 of 4 that speak English. It was really cool.
It was really cool. Very diverse group. Very cool group. We get we've been on the trail in the truck, and it's really cool, really bouncy. It's fun. I pick up my camera. We're maybe a minute away from the parking lot, but we've traveled enough distance. I pick up my camera. I go to take a picture of John, who's sitting kind of across from me, and it's a cool, fun shot. Take the shot, review it, just make sure that my settings are okay, and I realize that my battery light is flashing, and I did not have a spare battery with me. So I'm sitting there. I literally turn to John and I go, "It's my camera's dead. I may be able to take a couple." And depending, photographers out there will know. Something just changed on us here.
We're still good.
Photographers will know. It kind of varies. Once it starts blinking, you may have 2 minutes. You may have 5 minutes. I've seen it as long as 10 minutes. It may also vary greatly on the settings of the shots you're taking. So I had no idea how much time I had left. I might have one picture, I might have 12. I turn it off. I'm hoping I can conserve enough to get a couple of shots. And at this point, I just shut down. I literally, you probably couldn't see my eyes because I had shades on, but I just closed my eyes for a little bit. And to be completely honest, tried not to cry in front of everyone on this tour because I was so upset, something I was so excited for. And at that moment, you just realize there's no going back. You can't wave enough money in front of the driver's face to say, I want to go back. I need to get my battery. There's just no negotiation.
And this is probably about the same time that we could just barely see the parking lot
disappearing
in the distance.
So you feel like you're close. You feel like there might be a solution. Maybe if I do a barrel roll off of the back of it, and I'll run and catch back up, or I'll get on the next tour, whatever it is. Yeah. And reality sinks in that you're stuck. It's not going to happen. This thing that you've been waiting your entire life for, not your entire life, but for years and years for, not going to happen.
Not even on my list, my awareness at all. Until Galen got to Greeley and was like, hey, we have to do this. And I was like, okay,
this has to be on the tour.
We can do this.
And so we get to the mouth of the canyon, and I'm just so overcome with regret. And it's just stupid because I have a checklist I go through every single time, whether I'm shooting a wedding, whether I'm doing portraits, or whatever it is. I have a huge checklist. But because this was something I was doing for myself, and I was so excited, something you brought up later was I was so excited to do this, that I just neglected my checklist. Yeah. And you can't neglect your checklist. Anyway, get to the mouth of the canyon, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to just check. Just going to check and see if I have enough battery. I'll take 2 pictures. And then the entrance to the canyon, obviously, you don't know what's past it, but the entrance, you're thinking, this is going to be the best shot. This is going to be amazing. Right. So I turn on my camera, I pick it up, and I press down the shutter button. It's dead.
Nothing.
Completely dead. Not a single photo with my SLR.
Lots with your iPhone.
Lots with my iPhone, and I'm happy with some of those shots. Yeah. And the iPhone does a great job. The age-old saying is the best camera is the one that you have with you. And I had my nice camera with me, but it was completely dead. So that was out. So the best camera I had with me was my iPhone. And I'm happy with a lot of the shots. Yeah. I'll post them places. And they're really cool. But probably the largest, at least to date, largest photographic regret of my life so far. But ultimately, the tour was insane.
The tour was amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Well worth it. Definitely check that out. So after the tour, we're headed back into town. Galen changes out the battery, and
finally
we sit there and we think, do we want to immediately go? And Galen said, no, let's go get lunch. Let's go figure something out. So we had lunch at a really good Mexican restaurant.
We were thinking, do we want to repeat the Upper Canyon tour? Do we want to just do it again? And then it was, well, there's this Lower Canyon.
Mm-hmm. But even you were saying, no, I want to hit Horseshoe Bend. I want to hit, let's just move on.
There were other things to do, and I was so upset. I was over it.
But I was like, you know what? We're here now. Let's just do it. We already have the entrance into the national park because you still have to pay to get onto the Navajo Nation, technically.
Right.
So as long as we had that, we had it for the day, we could use it again. So we made the decision to go back to Lower Antelope Canyon.
I will be honest. I think you kind of made the decision.
Okay.
I was so over it, and I was so upset. And now in hindsight, thank you. Thank God you said, no, we're here. Let's do this. Yeah. Let's do it. And I felt really bad because I was like, I don't want to do a repeat. But you were willing to do it, and I was so upset. But I was like, okay, we'll do it. We'll go for it. And
it was amazing.
Oh my God! To compare Upper with Lower Canyon is unfair. They're actually very different beasts.
Very different.
Even though they are similarly shaped by water. Mm-hmm. They are so very different, and you'll see these reviews online that talk about Upper Canyon being all about these light beams and tighter corridors, tighter spirals. And Lower Canyon being slightly more open, a little bit more light, but richer colors. And those reviews are absolutely accurate. The colors in both are insane.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Upper was amazing. Lower was amazing. I wouldn't say one was better than the other at all. No. But I'm so glad we got to see both.
And if you have the time, if you're going to do this trip, I would say do both.
Do both. Tiny tidbit, Upper is slightly more expensive. One of our tours was joking about the fact that Upper means upper pricing and Lower means lower pricing. But so just something to know. Look at the tours. Make your decision for yourself. But if you can do both, do both. It's
word of caution: if you're claustrophobic at all, don't do either of the canyons.
Yeah. No matter how they tell you how open it is at the bottom, there are moments where you are passing with, I would say maybe 6 inches to a foot between your chest and the wall and your back and the wall. I mean, they're tight corridors. They open up to amazing canyons, and the views are well worth it. But if you're claustrophobic, don't do it.
Don't do it. I have to say, all of our tour guides were great too. We had the one this morning; she was great.
Amazing.
The one this afternoon, Boo Boo,
yeah,
he was great. And at first, we were a little apprehensive because they, particularly some of the ones at the second canyon, Lower Canyon, looked like a lot of high schoolers that were just like joking around,
having fun. And then you realize that, I mean, they know their stuff.
Yeah.
They were incredibly fun to work with. I mean, as tour guides, very knowledgeable, always willing to take your questions, always had answers, which was great.
Yes.
We're always willing to, it was great. They were pointing out different faces in the rocks and stuff. They would show you, if you turn this way and kind of look this way, the light comes down and you got Jack Sparrow, Abraham Lincoln, King Kong. I mean,
a lion with the paw complete, like over here. And you're just like,
it was
what?
really cool. And at first you're like, I'm not sure I see it. And you're politely like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, totally. I see, the Lion King. And then when he says, but you kind of have to stand from here. And then you move, and all of a sudden it all shifts.
6 inches. It's
6
not
inches,
even that much.
and all of a sudden you're seeing Mufasa's face.
Yeah,
it was really cool. I mean, for me, the highlight of it was just the natural beauty of it.
Yes,
but it was fun to kind of get some of those kind of jokey moments, and it was just cool to see what your brain sees in some of these very natural, shapes and forms.
So the other cool thing is, like, you'll be standing at the bottom of it, and you look up, and it's like 70 feet up to what the ground level is, because you go down into the canyon and then slowly climb your way back up through the door.
It's really insane. And to that note, the scary part of it all is that they would talk about, I guess last Thursday they had a flash flood come through, and they would point out the lines, and this was a relatively low one. They said it was a pretty small flash flood, but the line was well above our head where the water was going through, and you could see the sediment that had kind of come through and clung to some places, or stayed in some pockets. And you realize that it's not a laughing matter. When they say we're closing the park because of flash flood, even just the risk of flash flood, they do that for your safety because, I mean, just standing in that space, I know there's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do in that space when the flash flood. I'm not trying to deter anyone from going. Just, trust and realize that if you do end up with a closed tour, that it's for your safety, it's for your benefit.
It's legitimate.
Because I was scared at the thought of, oh my gosh, what can I do? You can't. You really can't.
Yeah.
You kind of go with the flow and hope the flow gets you out. Chances are it won't.
It won't. And, because they talk about that, the speed of the water comes through it, like, these are going to be
very slightly.
Very slightly, but like 25 to like 70 miles per hour. That's the speed of the water. And that's what is causing this creation. It's really cool.
And it causes these amazing vortexes in the stone because the water is literally a vortex. I mean, you've got these cyclones of water that create these bowls in the sand. It's absolutely amazing. Look up all the photos you want, but I honestly think you should look at it in person.
It's great.
Absolutely amazing. So I think, I mean, thanks to you, I checked off some huge bucket list items today. Horseshoe Bend is another one that's
we
super
also went to
close.
Horseshoe Bend. We haven't gotten there yet.
It was amazing. We did that after we did Lower Canyon.
Yeah.
I mean, literally checked bucket list things off of my list today, and all within 15 minutes drive of each other. 15,
very close.
1-5.
Very
did
close.
I do that properly in time?
1-5. 15.
15?
Yeah.
I like it. There you go. Oh, thumb out. Within 15 miles of each other.
There you go.
So... yeah, great area to come to, Horseshoe Bend and the Antelope Canyon. You could also do the dam tour.
Yes.
Which we unfortunately didn't get to because John was kind enough to say, let's go do Lower Canyon.
Well worth it.
But check out the dam tour. We've heard great things. I mean, the infrastructure involved with that is just insane. The general civil engineering is crazy.
And again, that's the Glen Canyon dam.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, the Glen Canyon Dam, which is... blocks Colorado River at one point, which leads us to our question of the day.
Oh yeah, question of the day. So we weren't in the car very much, so that was generally our time when we'd be driving and be like, well, I wonder what, blah, blah, blah. And that's when we'd write down our questions. Well, we didn't spend a lot of time in the car today, so we didn't end up with a lot of questions. We kind of came up with 2.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were naturally forming from our time throughout the day. So number one is, we wanted to know how many dams the Colorado River even had.
Yep.
Because we saw the one. We know, obviously, Hoover Dam's there, so we were kind of interested just how many there are. So that's my question to answer. So, just a little bit of information on the Colorado. It's 1,450 miles worth of river.
Okay.
It goes from the Rocky Mountains all the way to the Gulf of California.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Huge river, and it's actually one of the world's most heavily developed rivers. So it has the most dams or
Right.
any, diverting structures of any river in the world. Not of any river in the world, but it ranks in the top list. They didn't have information on exactly where it fell. Look it up yourself. It's probably cool. There are 15 dams on 15 on just the main. They call it the main stem of
Right.
the river, and then they said hundreds on different tributaries throughout the river structure, river system. So it's massive.
That's huge.
And that's, I think, what puts it in that ranking of probably most developed or one of the most in the world.
I'm still blown away. Like 15.
15.
I was thinking like 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5, right?
Right.
So, not going to list all 15 of even just the main. I'm going to list all 107. No, I'm not.
Great.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm just going to give you an idea of where those dams are.
Okay.
The 15 on the main leg, they range in use from irrigation, diversion, hydropower,
Right.
And flood control even. So,
okay. That makes
and
sense.
most of those are multi-purpose, but that's,
Right.
wide-ranging purposes for these dams. So we've got one that borders Arizona and Baja California,
Okay.
which is actually a state in Mexico. Don't confuse yourself. There are 5 that border Arizona and California.
Okay.
There's 2 that border Arizona and Nevada.
Okay.
There's 1 just in Arizona alone, so not touching any border.
Okay.
And then there's 5 in Colorado. So a lot of those bordering ones, the Colorado River actually forms a lot of the borders.
Right.
So that's why you get those branching. But yeah, that's insane. And so of the hydroelectric dams or hydropower dams throughout there, they generate 8,885,749 megawatt hours per year.
That's crazy.
It's insane. It's a ton of power. So it's huge for the states that actually have those hydropower dams. Obviously, the Hoover Dam is a hydroelectric, generates a ton of electricity. But obviously other states are doing it as well. So 15 is kind of the number we're going with. 15 dams on the main stem and then hundreds throughout the entire river system. So it's pretty insane. More than I thought.
Insane. That is intriguing.
Yeah, very cool.
But then our other question was the Arizona one, which we already answered.
Oh, that's right. We already answered that. Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
Arizona is in Standard Mountain Time.
Yes, Mountain Standard.
No daylight savings time.
No.
Unless you're in the Navajo Nation.
Yeah. Cool. We're hoping to hit more tomorrow. Tomorrow we're doing...
Oh, gosh. Zion. Again, we're hitting so many of these huge parks. Bucket list for me. Huge. If you can get a chance to go to any of these, you'll get our review of Zion tomorrow, but I'm super excited. It's going to be an early morning, so we've got to get to bed because it's now later than I expected it to be.
A lot later.
We're going to get to bed, and we'll hopefully talk to you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we won't die.
Hopefully.
Right?
Bye.
Bye.